The human didn't expect her favor until the princess acted. The ship was small by interstellar standards, meant for fast deliveries and dangerous missions, and today it carried one of the most valuable cargoes in the galaxy. A rare energy core designed to stabilize an orbiting palace of the Valian Empire. The aliens in the Galactic Coalition had entrusted humans with few tasks, usually those that required brute force or reckless courage. Diplomacy was not a human skill in their eyes. Elias, a human, was proof of that assumption. He glanced around at his crew, each member eyeing him with suspicion. The navigator, a six-armed being named Rilth, clicked his claws nervously on the console. "Captain," he said in a voice that seemed to echo in all directions at once, "the trajectory through the nebula rift is risky. Perhaps we should allow a more experienced pilot to—" Elias cut him off with a calm, steady hand. "Rilth, I've plotted the course myself. I know the risks, trust me." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, trusting a human in the midst of the nebula rift. A swirling maze of charged particles and magnetic storms was asking a lot. Humans were fragile, slow to heal, and apparently incapable of understanding complex alien technology. But Elias had a different approach. Where the aliens saw danger and overanalyzed, he relied on instinct and ingenuity. The first challenge came faster than anyone expected. A sudden alert flashed across the console. Marauder ships, pirate-like in design, appeared from the nebula. Their hulls were jagged, asymmetrical, painted black and red, and they moved with an unpredictable pattern. The crew stiffened, and Rilth began panicking. "We can't outrun them, they're faster than us." Elias leaned forward. "We don't outrun them, we outthink them." The aliens froze. Humans didn't usually think this way. They followed protocols, obeyed orders. Elias, however, had a habit of ignoring standard procedure if it didn't serve the goal. He scanned the ship systems. The Resolute had a series of auxiliary thrusters designed for precise maneuvers, never for combat. Yet he realized, with a few adjustments, they could create unpredictable movement patterns, something the Marauders would not anticipate. "Rilth," Elias said, "reroute auxiliary thrusters to the port side, full oscillation. And fire the counter-ion pulse at 30-second intervals. Trust me." Rilth hesitated, but there was no time to argue. Within moments, the ship began weaving through the nebula in a pattern that no alien pilot had ever executed. The Marauders fired, their lasers slicing through the charged particles around them, but each shot missed by inches as the Resolute danced through the magnetic storm. Elias' eyes narrowed. "Now," he pressed a sequence of buttons that activated the core's emergency shield, creating a temporary energy burst that pushed the nearest Marauder away. The ship lurched but stayed on course. The crew watched in awe as the pirates, confused by the human unpredictability, broke off the attack and fled into the nebula. For a brief moment, silence reigned. Then Rilth's voice trembled. "That was incredible." Elias leaned back, trying not to show his relief. "Humans aren't always what you expect." As they approached the Valian system, the nebula gave way to a breathtaking view of the gas giant below, its swirling colors illuminated by distant starlight. Orbiting the planet was the Valian Palace, a floating fortress of translucent metal and crystal, radiant against the void. The ship's sensors indicated high-level security measures, force fields, defense drones, and an array of monitoring satellites. No human had ever navigated these systems alone. The aliens who ran the coalition had not sent humans on diplomatic missions before, precisely because they assumed humans would fail. Elias adjusted his flight path, preparing for the final descent. "Keep calm, everyone. This is where we show them what humans can do." The crew was tense, but there was a spark of curiosity in their eyes. The humans' reputation for recklessness had preceded them, but no one had actually seen what a human could do in a situation that demanded both courage and intelligence. When the ship docked at the palace, Automated doors opened with a soft hiss. Elias and his crew stepped into a grand hall bathed in shifting light. The walls were etched with intricate patterns that seemed alive, responding to the presence of those within. Security drones hovered silently above, scanning every move. The palace was designed to impress, to intimidate, and it did both. At the far end of the hall, a figure approached, Princess Liara. She was young but exuded authority, moving with a grace that belied the danger and politics surrounding her. Her eyes, a shade of violet not found in humans, locked onto Elias. There was curiosity there, but also a faint trace of amusement. Humans were considered primitive, yet this one stood tall, confident despite the odds. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "I hear you have delivered something valuable to my people." Elias inclined his head. "Yes, Princess Liara, the energy core is intact and ready for transfer." Liara's gaze swept over the human crew. "I am aware of your reputation. Many believe humans are unpredictable. I prefer to judge for myself." Elias allowed himself a small smile. Humans had always thrived when underestimated. As the core was being transported to the central chamber, alarms suddenly blared. A section of the palace that should have been secured appeared to be malfunctioning. The core's energy readings spiked dangerously, and the automated systems failed to stabilize it. The court advisors panicked. "Princess, this is a disaster. The core could explode." Elias stepped forward. "Step back. Let me see." He examined the control panels, unfamiliar alien designs with symbols that shifted and pulsed. The readings were complex, but Elias' mind worked differently from the aliens. He saw patterns where others saw chaos, possibilities where others saw danger. With careful adjustments and a bit of improvisation, he rerouted the energy flow, manually stabilizing the core. A tense silence followed. Slowly, the readings normalized. The court advisors stared, mouths agape. Princess Liara's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She approached Elias quietly, away from the others. "You handled that well. Most humans would have panicked. Most of my people would have failed, but you did not." Elias shrugged modestly. "I'm just doing what needs to be done." Liara studied him for a moment longer, a faint smile forming. "Perhaps humans are not as simple as we assume." For the rest of the day, Elias and his crew navigated the palace under close observation. They were introduced to the council, shown the advanced technology, and questioned about their mission. Some council members were openly skeptical, whispering doubts, and eyeing the human with suspicion. But Liara intervened subtly, redirecting the conversation and giving Elias space to demonstrate competence. As the day turned to evening, the palace's lights reflected across the gas giant below, casting shifting shadows and colors through the translucent walls. Elias stood by a viewing port, looking at the expanse of stars and the glowing planet. The universe was vast, full of dangers and mysteries, yet humans had carved a place in it, not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being unpredictable, adaptable, and resilient. Liara approached him quietly. "You handled yourself well today, Captain. Not many would have survived the journey here, let alone impressed me." Elias turned to her. "I didn't expect to impress anyone, Princess. I just did what I could." Liara studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps that is the difference. Most try to impress. You just act." Elias felt a spark of understanding. The favor of a princess in a foreign empire was not easily earned, yet here it was, acknowledged quietly, personally. The implications were vast. One small human action had already begun to shift perceptions in a palace that had doubted him at every step. As he returned to his quarters that evening, Elias reflected on the day's events. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, yet in situations like this, it was precisely that underestimation that became their strength. When others expected failure, humans could act freely, relying on ingenuity and instinct. That unpredictability, often dismissed as recklessness, was a hidden power that could shape the course of empires. Outside the ship's port, stars twinkled with distant suns, nebulae swirling in brilliant colors. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of intrigue and threats. But for the first time, Elias felt that humans, often overlooked and underestimated, had a role to play not just in surviving, but in changing the tide of events on a cosmic scale. Princess Liara had noticed. Her favor, quiet but unmistakable, was a sign that the galaxy might soon see humans differently. And Elias, the human who others thought fragile and reckless, was ready to step into the challenge. The journey had just begun. The next morning, the Valian palace shone under the light of the gas giant's radiant glow. Its crystal walls reflected the swirling colors of the planet below, casting patterns that danced across the corridors. Captain Elias Kane walked through the palace with his human crew, feeling both awe and cautious confidence. Despite the grandeur, he knew the true challenge lay in navigating the politics and power games that played silently behind the beauty. Princess Liara had arranged a private audience with him. It was a rare honor for a human, and Elias understood that. He had learned that the princess noticed the small, subtle actions that others overlooked, the way someone stayed calm under pressure, or acted decisively when choices mattered most. Today, she wanted to observe him again. "You handled yourself well yesterday," she said as he entered the chamber. Her violet eyes were sharp but curious. "The council watches everyone closely. Humans are often too unpredictable for them, yet you proved different." Elias inclined his head respectfully. "I do what I can, Princess. I've learned to trust what I see and what I know, rather than what others expect me to do." Liara smiled faintly. "That is perhaps why I have taken an interest in you. Most humans would have followed protocols and failed to act in time. You improvise." She leaned closer. "Tell me, Captain, have you ever worked with beings so advanced that their technology seemed impossible to understand?" Elias chuckled softly. "All the time. But I've learned that no matter how advanced the systems, there is always logic beneath. Sometimes, you just have to think like they wouldn't expect." Liara nodded thoughtfully. She seemed pleased by his answer, though she said nothing more. Elias noticed how quiet she became when observing him. Unlike the council, she did not question his abilities openly. Instead, she measured them silently, letting her judgment form behind calm eyes. After the meeting, Elias returned to his crew, who were still in awe of the palace. The corridors seemed endless, filled with rooms that housed technologies beyond anything humans had seen. Yet it was the people here, their politics, rivalries, and ambitions, that seemed even more dangerous. "Captain," Rilth said nervously, "the Council is discussing the energy core. There are factions that believe humans should not be trusted. They argue that only one of their own should manage the transfer. You may face difficulties." Elias nodded. "Then we'll handle them as we handle any obstacle, directly but smartly. Let's see what they do." The first test came sooner than expected. During the official transfer of the energy core, a section of the palace that should have been secure began fluctuating violently. Energy readings spiked, threatening to destabilize the entire chamber. The court advisors panicked. "Princess, the core's containment is failing. It could explode." Elias pushed forward. "Step back, I need space." He examined the control panels. The alien designs were intricate, with symbols that shifted and glowed, reacting to energy fluctuations. Where the Valians saw chaos, Elias saw patterns. He identified a minor bypass that, if adjusted, could stabilize the core temporarily. But it required someone to manually reroute the energy channels while maintaining a steady output, a dangerous task. "Rilth," Elias said, "we'll need to take the core out of the automated path. Can you stabilize it with the auxiliary thrusters?" Rilth hesitated but complied. The human crew worked under Elias' guidance, and together they stabilized the core just as sparks flew across the chamber. The council erupted in murmurs, impressed but wary. Princess Liara approached Elias once the immediate danger had passed. "You have a way of seeing what others miss. You don't just react, you anticipate." Elias shrugged modestly. "Humans often survive because we find solutions when others are too cautious or too afraid to try anything new. Sometimes it's not strength or speed, it's perspective." Liara's eyes lingered on him, and for a moment she seemed almost to consider him more than a human courier. "Perhaps your perspective is valuable. Perhaps humans are underestimated in ways that should not be ignored." Later that day, Elias was escorted to a private observation deck that overlooked the palace's core facilities. From there, he could see the delicate networks that maintained the city in orbit. Small mistakes could have catastrophic results, yet the system's beauty was undeniable. "Do you understand what you see?" Liara asked, joining him silently. Elias nodded. "More than you might expect. I can't operate your systems like one of your people, but I can understand the principles. Logic, flow, energy distribution. Those things are universal." Liara smiled faintly. "That may be true. Humans are often dismissed because they lack our technology, yet you possess something we cannot measure: imagination under pressure, courage, ingenuity." Before Elias could respond, alarms blared again. This time the threat was internal. A faction within the palace sought to sabotage the energy core, manipulating control sequences to make it fail. The council suspected an external error, but Elias quickly realized that the problem was deliberate. He moved swiftly. Using human intuition and improvisation, he identified the subtle changes that indicated tampering. With Liara's permission, he bypassed the corrupted controls and neutralized the threat. Sparks flew from overloaded panels, and the system groaned under the strain, but the core stabilized once more. The council watched in disbelief. A human had corrected what they assumed was impossible. Murmurs turned to cautious admiration, though no one dared voice it aloud. Liara, however, stepped forward. Captain Kane acted quickly to prevent disaster. "His judgment is sound and his skills are invaluable." She addressed the council, her voice firm and commanding. "We must consider humans as allies, not as liabilities." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged uncertain glances. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Liara's favor carried weight. For the first time, Elias sensed that he and his species might not just be tolerated, they might be recognized for their true worth. Over the following hours, Elias worked closely with Liara. She guided him through the palace's technology, explaining its complexities while allowing him the freedom to approach problems as he saw fit. His solutions were often unconventional, combining human creativity with analytical thinking. Each success earned Liara's quiet acknowledgement: a nod, a subtle smile, a gesture unnoticed by others but meaningful to Elias. By evening, word of his actions had spread across the palace. The faction that attempted sabotage had been exposed, though they remained silent, unwilling to oppose the princess openly. Elias' crew admired how the princess acted decisively, giving humans a chance to prove themselves. Liara invited Elias to walk along the observation bridge as the lights of the gas giant shifted into twilight hues. "You may have noticed," she said, "that humans are often underestimated in our world. Your people survive where others might fail. Your actions today prove that perception is often misleading." Elias looked out at the swirling colors of the planet. "That has always been our way. People expect us to fail. We find ways to succeed anyway." Liara nodded. "And in doing so, you create opportunities. Opportunities that can change outcomes, even for entire empires." The human captain realized then that Liara's favor was not mere curiosity. She had recognized in him a rare combination of qualities: courage, ingenuity, and reliability under pressure. That favor, quiet as it was, might influence the council, shift alliances, and even change how humans were perceived across the galaxy. For Elias, the day's lessons were clear. The Valian Empire was complex, full of beauty, power, and danger. Humans were often dismissed, yet their value lay not in strength alone but in perspective. They could see solutions others overlooked, act decisively when others hesitated, and adapt in ways no advanced technology could predict. As night fell, Elias returned to his quarters, exhausted but invigorated. The stars outside the palace glimmered with possibilities, each one a challenge waiting to be met. The human crew slept nearby, unaware of the subtle victories their captain had achieved. Liara, seated in her private chambers, reflected on the day as well. She had placed a quiet trust in a human, and that trust had already been rewarded. In the days to come, the palace would test him further. Political games, sabotage, and hidden agendas awaited, yet Elias felt ready. The favor of a princess, earned through courage and ingenuity, was not something to be taken lightly. It was a key, a recognition that humans could influence events in ways that others failed to see. Outside, the gas giant's colors shifted into deep violet and silver, and the palace hovered silently against the void. A human had arrived, underestimated and dismissed, yet already beginning to shape the events of an empire. Princess Liara's quiet acknowledgement was a signal. Sometimes, the actions of one human could ripple across the galaxy. Elias looked at the stars and allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy underestimated humans, but that was precisely the advantage. When others expected failure, humans could act freely, unpredictably, decisively. And with Princess Liara's favor, that unpredictability had begun to matter more than anyone realized. The mission had only just begun. The days following the Energy Core incident passed with tense quiet in the Valian Palace. Captain Elias Kane had earned quiet respect from some council members, though others still viewed him with suspicion. Humans were unpredictable, fragile, and untested in politics. Yet Princess Liara had placed her trust in him, and that trust grew with each demonstration of ingenuity. Elias walked the corridors with his crew, noticing the subtle ways the palace operated. Every door, every hallway, every panel responded to intention and command. Security systems shifted like living things, adjusting to perceived threats. The human captain was fascinated, not by the technology alone, but by how perception shaped the palace. The Valians valued appearances and protocol, often ignoring what was real. Humans, however, saw through complexity, finding patterns others overlooked. "Captain," Rilth said, a trace of worry in his voice, "there are rumors among the council. Some factions are planning something. They see your presence as a threat to their influence. They may attempt sabotage." Elias nodded, already anticipating the moves of those who thought themselves clever. "Then we'll stay ahead of them. Observe first, act second. Always know the next step before they do." Princess Liara summoned Elias to a private audience again. She did not waste words. "Captain Kane, I will not always be able to shield you. The factions grow bold. They will attempt to discredit you or worse." Elias studied her carefully. "Then we need to be proactive, find the weaknesses before they strike. That is how humans survive in dangerous places." Liara's eyes glinted with approval. "That is why I value your presence. Not because you are human, but because you see differently." The next day, the first move came. During a routine inspection of the palace's energy conduits, a series of unusual fluctuations appeared on the sensors. At first, council members assumed technical error. Elias, however, immediately recognized the subtle signs of intentional interference. Someone had altered the conduit outputs to destabilize the energy core slowly, masking their work as a system glitch. He moved quickly, consulting the palace schematics and scanning for anomalies. "This is deliberate," he told Liara. "Someone wants to make it look like human error." Liara's expression hardened. Then we will expose them before they can succeed, but we must act carefully. The council must not suspect my involvement openly. Elias devised a plan that combined stealth, observation, and his human creativity. While Liara provided access and subtle authority, he analyzed the palace's hidden systems, following the traces left by the saboteurs. It became clear that a small faction within the council had grown bold, using their influence to manipulate minor personnel and cover their tracks. With careful precision, Elias set a trap. He allowed the saboteurs to continue their interference for a short while, ensuring that their patterns could be predicted. Then, using a combination of human ingenuity and the palace's advanced technology, he cornered them. The energy conduits, once destabilized, were stabilized under his direct control, and the evidence of tampering became undeniable. Liara watched silently, her quiet approval never breaking, until the moment came to reveal the results. "Council members," she said, her voice carrying authority, "the human captain has demonstrated the truth. These actions were deliberate, and the evidence proves that some among you sought to endanger the palace." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The faction responsible froze, unable to deny the irrefutable data. Elias stood quietly, letting Liara's intervention carry the authority. His human perspective had uncovered what the council could not, and Liara's favor ensured his actions were recognized publicly. For Elias, it was a lesson in diplomacy as much as survival. Humans were often underestimated not because they lacked skill, but because others assumed predictable behavior. When unpredictability was guided by careful observation and logic, it became a formidable advantage. That evening, Liara sought Elias privately. "You have proven yourself beyond doubt. Not many humans could have acted so decisively, nor recognized deception in such a complex environment." Elias smiled. "Humans survive because we notice what others don't, and we act when hesitation would destroy us. We're used to being underestimated." Liara's expression softened, a rare moment of personal favor. "Then perhaps the galaxy will learn what I already know, that humans are not to be dismissed. Your actions have shifted perceptions today. You have gained my trust, Captain Kane, and it is not given lightly." The days that followed involved constant observation and subtle preparation. Elias and his human crew were given access to more areas of the palace, guided quietly by Liara, while the council remained skeptical but attentive. Each small success built momentum. Human ingenuity proved itself in minor repairs, energy management, and problem-solving that aliens had assumed impossible for a human mind. Then the greatest challenge appeared. Intelligence reports indicated that a secret faction, unknown to most of the council, intended to destabilize the coalition itself. Their plan was simple yet dangerous: manipulate energy cores across multiple systems to create panic and conflict among the ruling powers. Humans were dismissed in intelligence circles, assumed too fragile and simple to understand the subtlety of political scheming. Elias studied the data carefully. "This isn't just about one palace," he said. "It's about an entire network. They assume humans wouldn't notice patterns, but patterns are what we see best when others overlook them." Liara nodded. "Then we act together. You will need access to systems no human has ever touched. The risk is great, but your insight may be the only thing that can prevent disaster." The plan required infiltration, observation, and subtle intervention. Using human unpredictability and improvisation, Elias navigated the palace's hidden systems, tracing communications and energy anomalies to their source. Meanwhile, Liara provided authorization that appeared routine, masking her involvement from the council and the conspirators. The tension built steadily. Every move had to be precise. Every observation mattered. Elias found flaws in the conspirators' strategy that even the most advanced alien minds had missed: small assumptions about timing, redundancy, and predictability that humans approached differently. Finally, the confrontation came. Elias located the secret hub where the conspirators coordinated their actions. Using a combination of stealth and improvisation, he disabled their systems long enough to prevent immediate catastrophe. Sparks flew from overloaded panels, alarms blared, and automated defenses activated. But Elias moved calmly, relying on instincts honed through years of human experience in unpredictable circumstances. Liara arrived just in time to provide support, her presence adding authority and protection. Together, human ingenuity and royal decisiveness neutralized the threat. The conspirators were exposed, their plans ruined, and the coalition remained intact. In the aftermath, the Council could no longer deny the value of humans. Aliens who had doubted Elias now regarded him with cautious respect, but it was the quiet recognition from Liara that mattered most. Her favor, earned through trust and shared action, highlighted what others could not yet see. Humans were not only capable but essential in critical situations. Elias reflected on the events quietly. Humans were often underestimated because they did not fit predictable molds. They succeeded not through raw power, but through perspective, improvisation, and courage. Liara's trust had allowed him to demonstrate these qualities openly, subtly shifting the balance of opinion in the palace. That night, as the stars reflected off the palace walls and the gas giant below shimmered in violet and silver, Elias stood by the observation window. Liara joined him, her presence calm and reassuring. "You have done more than survive here, Captain. You have proven that humans are valuable." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "We've always known that, others just need to see it sometimes." Liara's gaze softened. "And now they have. Your actions, combined with my support, have changed more than you realize. The Council will remember this, and humans will be regarded differently because of it." The human captain understood then that favor was not given lightly. It was earned through action, insight, and courage. Liara's quiet acknowledgement had already influenced events, and in time it would ripple outward. Outside, the palace hovered silently in orbit, an intricate blend of beauty, power, and potential danger. Inside, one human had made a difference that others could not yet comprehend. The galaxy underestimated humans as it often did, but that underestimation was precisely their strength. When others expected failure, humans could act freely, decisively, and unpredictably. And with Princess Liara's quiet favor, their actions began to shape the fate of empires. The mission was far from over. Political games, hidden threats, and cosmic dangers awaited. But Captain Elias Kane, a human underestimated at every turn, now had an ally who believed in him, a princess whose quiet favor gave him the power to act, to influence, and to survive. The galaxy had seen humans in a new light, but the most crucial battles and the most decisive victories were still to come. Elias gazed out at the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. The Valian Palace was no longer just a destination. It was a stage for human ingenuity, courage, and heroism. And in the quiet favor of a princess, he recognized the start of something greater than himself, a chance to prove that humans, underestimated and dismissed, could change the course of history. The night deepened, stars twinkling as distant suns cast faint light across the void. Within the palace, humans and aliens alike prepared for the challenges ahead. But Captain Elias Kane, guided by instinct, insight, and the favor of Princess Liara, was ready. For when humans acted, the unexpected became reality, and the galaxy had yet to see the full measure of their power. The galaxy was vast and silent, yet danger always lurked in the shadows of uncharted systems. Captain Elias Kane stood on the observation deck of the Valian Palace, gazing at the stars with a steady mind. The last few days had tested him, revealing the subtle intrigues and threats within the palace. But now, the challenge was greater than anything he had faced before. Intelligence reports indicated that a rogue faction had not only sabotaged the energy cores, but was also planning to destabilize the coalition entirely. The palace, the planet, and even the surrounding systems were at risk. Princess Liara joined him quietly. "The threat is more extensive than we first believed," she said, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. "They believe humans cannot comprehend the complexity of our systems. They underestimate you." Elias nodded. "They underestimate more than humans, Princess. They underestimate ingenuity, unpredictability, and courage. That will be our advantage." The princess's subtle approval, her quiet favor, had already shifted the perception of humans within the palace. Council members who once dismissed him now watched carefully, unsure whether to challenge or support him. Elias knew that the time to act decisively had come. The plan required precision, coordination, and daring. Using intelligence gathered from palace systems, Elias traced the rogue faction to a hidden orbital station at the edge of the system. It was heavily defended, equipped with advanced alien defenses designed to repel any intruder. No human had ever approached it without detection, yet Elias relied on what humans did best: observation, improvisation, and unpredictability. He gathered his crew. "We will infiltrate the station," he said. "Stealth will get us close, but ingenuity will see us through." The enemies expect conventional attacks, predictable patterns. We'll give them neither. Rilth and the crew nodded, trusting their captain. Humans were often underestimated, but their unpredictability became a strength when guided by intelligence and courage. Liara provided covert authorization, giving them access to orbital mapping, security data, and energy channels unknown to the Council. The approach was tense. The orbital station loomed against the backdrop of the gas giant, its jagged surfaces bristling with weapons and sensors. Elias piloted the ship in silence, weaving through debris and cloaking fields. Automated defenses scanned the area, but Elias anticipated their patterns, exploiting blind spots and timing movements precisely. As they neared the station, alarms flared. Security drones activated, lasers cutting through the void. Elias acted swiftly. Divert power to thrusters, fire counter-ion pulse, maintain oscillation. The Resolute danced unpredictably, moving in ways no alien strategist had calculated. Drones misfired, their energy pulses missing by inches. Elias guided the ship toward a maintenance shaft, small and overlooked, giving them direct access inside the station. Once aboard, the crew encountered corridors filled with traps, surveillance devices, and automated security. Aliens on the rogue faction's payroll moved quickly, attempting to intercept them. Elias led the way, improvising and using the environment to his advantage. He set off controlled diversions, rerouted power lines to disable barriers, and anticipated enemy moves. Each time, human intuition allowed them to act faster than the advanced alien minds guarding the station. Deep within the orbital station, Elias located the central control hub. It was a room of alien complexity, pulsating with energy channels, holographic displays, and interconnected systems. The rogue faction had begun destabilizing energy cores across multiple systems, a plan that could trigger interstellar chaos. Time was short. "Rilth, analyze the flow patterns," Elias said. "I need to know every possible disruption they could make, then we neutralize it." Rilth's multiple eyes scanned the data, processing in ways humans could not match. Yet Elias saw patterns where the aliens relied solely on computation. He realized a flaw in the rogue system's timing, a delay small enough that no automated system had accounted for. Using this, he manually rerouted the energy cores, stabilizing them and preventing catastrophe. The rogue leaders confronted them in the hub, their weapons drawn and expressions full of shock. "You're human," one shouted. "You have no place here." You cannot understand these systems. Elias smiled calmly. Underestimate humans at your peril. He activated the station's emergency protocols in a precise sequence no one expected, locking down escape routes and neutralizing weapons without causing destruction. The rogue faction found themselves trapped by their own overconfidence. The humans' unpredictability had turned their strategy against them. Liara arrived through a hidden corridor, her presence both authority and support. "Your plan is clever," she said, addressing Elias. "But we need to ensure the coalition understands the threat is over. You must present the resolution." Elias nodded. Using evidence gathered during the mission, he exposed the rogue faction's intentions to the Council, detailing how their plot had been neutralized. The proof was undeniable, and the Council could no longer dismiss humans as unreliable or weak. "What humans bring is not just strength or speed," Liara said publicly. "They bring perspective, courage, and the ability to act when others hesitate. Captain Kane has demonstrated that beyond doubt." Applause and murmurs of approval spread throughout the Council. Aliens who had once doubted humans now regarded them with respect. Elias felt the quiet satisfaction of vindication, but he knew the real victory was the recognition of human potential. Later, as the crew prepared to return to the palace, Liara spoke to Elias privately. "You have done more than survive, Captain. You have changed perceptions not just here but across the galaxy. The Council will remember this, and humans will be considered differently from now on." Elias considered her words. Humans were often dismissed, underestimated, and overlooked. Yet time and again, that very underestimation became their greatest advantage. With ingenuity, courage, and perspective, they could influence events that others could not. Liara's favor had allowed him to act decisively, and her trust had amplified the impact of every human action. Back at the palace, the Council formally acknowledged Elias' role in thwarting the rogue faction. Humans, once seen as fragile and reckless, were now recognized as valuable allies. The balance of the coalition had shifted, subtly but permanently, in favor of cooperation rather than dismissal. Elias and Liara spent a quiet moment overlooking the gas giant from the observation deck. "You trusted me," he said, "even when others doubted." Liara smiled. "Not even trusted, you were given favor, and you have earned it. Your actions speak louder than any words could." Elias felt a rare warmth. Favor was not given lightly, and it was more powerful than authority alone. In the silent acknowledgement of a princess, he understood that humans could influence events in ways no alien system could predict. Their unpredictability, often derided, had become their greatest strength. The palace glimmered in the starlight, its corridors silent now after the chaos. Elias reflected on the journey. From an underestimated courier to a hero whose actions preserved peace and stability across multiple systems. Humans, often dismissed, had shown the galaxy that their value lay not just in physical strength or technology, but in creativity, insight, and the ability to act decisively when others hesitated. Liara placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "The galaxy has seen your strength, Captain Kane, and my favor is a signal that humans are no longer to be ignored." Elias nodded. "We've only begun to show what humans can do. Others will learn, eventually." As night deepened, the stars beyond the palace shimmered with quiet brilliance. The human crew rested, knowing their captain had once again proven that courage and ingenuity could overcome even the most advanced threats. Aliens had witnessed what humans could accomplish when given the chance, and the ripple effect of recognition had begun. The galaxy underestimated humans as it always had, yet that underestimation had become a strength. With Liara's favor, human actions carried weight beyond expectation. Decisions once thought reckless became decisive. Risks once deemed foolish became victories. Elias gazed out at the expanse of stars. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but humans had proven their worth. When unpredictability was guided by insight and courage, it could change the course of empires. Princess Liara stood beside him, silent but present. Together, they had thwarted a conspiracy that could have destabilized the coalition. Together, they had shown the value of trust, perspective, and action. And together, they had begun to forge a new understanding. Humans, underestimated and dismissed, could shape the galaxy in ways no one expected. The stars glimmered endlessly, a reminder of the vast universe and the endless possibilities within it. Captain Elias Kane, a human, had not only survived but had become a symbol of ingenuity and heroism. Princess Liara's quiet favor had allowed him to act decisively, and his actions had forever altered perceptions of humans. The mission was complete, but the impact would last. The coalition, the palace, and even the galaxy would now remember that humans were capable, adaptable, and heroic. And in the quiet acknowledgement of a princess, Elias realized the true power of being underestimated. It allowed humans to act freely, decisively, and ultimately, victoriously. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and it would never look at them the same way again. The human didn't expect her favor until the princess acted,